damn, bro, they are cooking Doug. They're cooking Doug so much. I don't think Doug has anything to do with this, man. Like, that's so funny. Yo, that is that. They're kind of hyping my man up a little bit, okay? Anyway, is Kamala turning her back on the Arab American vote? From Al Jazeera. Let's take a look.
Their job to earn my vote. It is not my job to fall in line.
Arab and Muslim voters in Michigan are ready to abandon the
The real enemy is Israel's own collapsing economy. Oh, 100p. They cannot continue this death and destruction campaign. They cannot. Their own internal weapons manufacturing is not enough for them to completely turn their country into a war economy. Even if they were to do that, it would take some time for them to successfully turn their entire economy into a war economy. But even then, they lose all of the good favor of being the democracy in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East, which was a lie always, but it doesn't matter. Like you're going to experience brain drain. Like, there are plenty of Israelis, including those who are in my chat right now, that probably, if given the opportunity, would get the out of there in a moment's notice, right? Obviously, especially those in my chat. Plenty cannot because they just don't have the financial means to do so. The moment that the United States of America or anyone else says, hey, it doesn't matter if you're an American citizen or not, we're offering you refugee status, Israel collapses, okay? It turns into a nuclear armed state led by inbred Haredi dudes who don't know how to read. It'll be a nation ruled by and comprised entirely of the Itamar Ben-Gvirs of the world. It's over at that point. You can't do a charm offensive and consistently, oh, I forgot to run the 3-minute ad break, by the way, so I'm running it now, and consistently lobby the American government or have narratives that suit your purpose in the halls of intelligentsia. Like, you're cooked. You're cooked. Why is it that you think Israel has... One, why is it that you think that there are so many Tel Aviv offices, right? Like, when you are in the region, when you are covering the issue, there's no Gaza office, not even really a West Bank office for many of these places. It's just a Tel Aviv office. That's number one. Why is it that there are so many English-speaking spokespeople within the Israeli occupying forces, immediately ready to go at a moment's notice to contextualize the violence that is unfolding, to justify it? It's because no matter what Americans might say or think, the Israeli government understands the importance of the charm offensive. They understand the importance of trying to manufacture consent directly so that Americans don't make too much of a stink.
Democratic Party.
There's nothing worse than genocide. There is nothing worse than watching our babies' brains spilled out day in and day out, people being buried alive under the rubble. There is nothing worse than that.
Any candidate or any political party that has been complicit in providing political cover and material support for a genocide is not worth voting for.
We're back talking to voters in Dearborn, Michigan, home to the largest Arab American community in the U.S. When we came here last October, the Arab Americans we spoke to were adamantly anti-Biden. Now there's a new nominee and an even higher death toll in Gaza. We've returned 1 year later and are asking people how they're planning to vote in the presidential election.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Lexis Zaidan is a Christian Palestinian-American activist who grew up in Dearborn.
My grandparents are all people who've been victims of the 1948 Nakba. My dad's family grew up in Jaffa, which a lot of people know as current-day Tel Aviv. A lot of them left Palestine and became refugees because of what happened in 1948 of being displaced out of their homes unjustly, unlawfully, in a way that was dehumanizing and in a way that's happening to Palestinians in this very moment.
She says that the demographic in Dearborn has a unique perspective on the election.
And we see our parents that came from nothing, from war-torn countries, countries that have been war-torn by our own tax dollars, still come here and create something for their family and contributed to a society that in a sense has betrayed them.
When we last spoke to her a few weeks after October 7th, Lexis was clear that she would not vote for Joe Biden. Now that Kamala Harris is the nominee, she says she and other people in the community don't know who they're going to vote for president.
People don't know what to do. And two options of a fascist like Trump and Harris, who was under an administration that directly funded this genocide.
Because of the way US presidential elections and the Electoral College are set up, the candidate who wins the most votes in a state usually gets all the state's votes in the Electoral College. That means certain swing states like Michigan are more likely to sway the election.
We've been saying for months now that we want them to implement an arms embargo to, stop supporting the occupation and the killing of Palestinians. And that demand has clearly fallen on deaf ears, unfortunately. And so it's people almost feel like, what is there to do?
Lexis is one of the co-founders of the Uncommitted campaign, which asked voters to cast a protest vote against Joe Biden in the Democratic Party primaries. In Michigan's primary in February, more than 100,000 people voted uncommitted, many of them protesting the US government's policy on Gaza. But now there's a new nominee.
And at the end of the day, you come down to this reality that there's Harris and there's Trump. My biggest thing is I want people to go to the polls and civically engage and vote. But also I want people to understand that what we do outside the ballot box is actually far more important than what we do inside the ballot box.
To Lexis, the movement is not just about making change, but also creating a space for those affected by the genocide.
In pain and trauma and grief, we forget to also pause and kind of breathe and really recognize that art and culture can help mobilize people.
The first most tragic story is October 7th.
Hospitals.
In Detroit, Vice President Kamala Harris was asked if she could lose due to the anger felt by Arabs, Muslims, and supporters of the Palestinian cause over civilian deaths in Gaza.
How risky is it that you could lose the election?
Well, it is undeniable that it is something that everyone is aware of what is happening there. I speak publicly all the time about the fact that there are so many tragic stories coming from Gaza, and of course, the first in this phase of everything that has happened, the first most tragic story is October 7th.
Oh my God, it is the most tragic. You're right. Yeah, there's been an October 7 daily since then, but it is the most tragic. I mean, the only way you see this is if you only see Israelis as human. That's it. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. You definitely do not, like, you can be as PR trained as you want to be. You can be as media trained as a person who's running for president, right? And even then, no matter what, okay? No matter what, if you have this underlying attitude that like Arabs, Muslims are kind of deserving of being relegated to collateral damage status, if you operate with that assumption, if you operate with that as your starting point, you're always going to f up because it's not genuine. It's not. Like, all of the lip service is so disingenuous that the underlying disproportionality of the violence that is justified is so apparent in every single instance. This isn't to say that October 7 is not a tragic incident, is not a massacre. Of course it is. But to simply say it is the most tragic, the first thing that happened, and it's the most tragic thing that happened in the aftermath, when you don't actually look at 12 months of active genocide that has been multiple, thousands of October 7s at this point. I don't know. I mean, you're just, it's very obvious. It's very obvious that you don't care. If anything, you're just kind of annoyed that you even have to answer to the humanity of Palestinians. Like, it's just like, ugh, why don't they just like die quietly? News analysis. Vice President Kamala Harris advised the empathy she has expressed for Palestinians in Gaza should not be confused with any willingness to break from U.S. foreign policy towards Israel as a presidential candidate. I think it's interesting that like they even care to do this sort of thing. They should just be more honest about it. I think overall, like there is no difference between the actions that the American government takes in the way that we have locked into a double suicide pact with Israel, right? There is virtually no difference. There's no daylight between that and Donald Trump. The only difference is Donald Trump is like, no, that shit is good, and I'm in agreement with it. Whereas this administration tries to play this song and dance as though they are like trying to stop Israel, but failing to do so, making them appear even weaker.
And what happened that day, and then what has happened since. And I think what's critically important as we look at this moment is, one, acknowledging the tragedy of what has happened in Gaza.
But it satisfies the libs? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. That's why liberals will desperately look for anything and everything they can to grab onto. Like, oh, there's you guys that are speaking out against Israel are actually doing so from like an anti-Semitic POV or something. No, they can't tackle the issue. They can't tackle the issue directly. So they just like try to disperse, try to like get you to not look at the glaringly obvious death and destruction in front of your eyes. Both my parents are Zionist megalibs, and even they are starting to recognize that this issue is going to be the one that does Kamala in because of how unpopular what Israel's doing is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are, I think, thank you for the 50 gifted subs, D2. That's it. That's it. Like, liberals also literally are not on, they're not in line with the Harris administration on this. So for them, I think it's more so about just like getting her to shut up about it too. They're just like, oh, I don't want to even think about that. Now, you might know some people who are denying what Israel's doing is genocide or whatever, but ultimately, even they recognize that it's kind of up.
Gaza, in terms of the extraordinary number of innocent Palestinians who have been killed, and taking that seriously and speaking truth about that. In addition, of course, to what I said about what happened on October 7 in terms of 1,200 innocent Israelis being slaughtered, women being horribly raped. And then fast forwarding to today with the killing of Sinwar, this creates an opening that I believe we must take full advantage of to dedicate ourselves to ending this war and bringing the hostages home.
But it's not working so far.
You know what? Listen, as it relates to the issues in the Middle East and in particular in that region, it has never been easy. But that doesn't mean we give up, okay? It is always going to be difficult. It does not mean we give up. We can't give up.
I mean, I think that they are actively trying to push the Arab voters away, by the way. I don't think that they're like turning their back on the Arab voters. I think they are actively pushing the Arab voters away because they're like somehow, I guess, fearful. Thread: Elon Musk targeting Muslim and Jewish voters in Michigan and PA with either showing Kamala as pro-Palestine and pro-Israel. An Elon Musk funded PAC is micro-targeting Muslim people in Michigan and Jewish people in Pennsylvania with the opposite messaging about Kamala Harris using zip code targeting, according to data I pulled from Snapchat. A few things from this investigation. Damn, 404 Media. Okay. Respect to Jason Keebler. They are targeting areas in Michigan that have many Muslim voters with ads saying Kamala stands with Israel. I mapped the targeting and it's very specific. They're targeting an area outside of Flint that has a major mosque, but no other parts of Flint. They're targeting a section of Detroit that is majority Muslim. They're not targeting an adjacent area that is 95% black. Then they are targeting an area immediately above that, which has several mosques. It looks like this. That's crazy. In Pittsburgh, they are targeting traditionally Jewish neighborhoods, including a neighborhood where the Tree of Life massacre happened several years ago, as well as several suburbs with large synagogues. In Philadelphia, the targeted areas align with neighborhoods and suburbs that the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia says have vibrant Jewish communities. They're also targeting the town of Hanover, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure exactly why they're targeting Hanover, but it is home to Utz Chips Factory, and the Utz is highlighted that it makes kosher products and as a rabbinic coordinator. A related PAC also funded by Elon Musk is targeting black voters in battleground states with ads that say Dems are going to ban menthol cigarettes. These ads are targeted using interest targeting that a political operative might think is more likely to hit black voters. Here are the Jewish voters in here's the ads that Jewish voters in Pennsylvania are getting.
Two-faced Kamala Harris is secretly campaigning for Palestine and trying to get away with it.
I will not be silent about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians. Our common humanity compels us to act.
Kamala Harris, stop pandering to Palestine and stand with our ally Israel.
Yo, that's awesome. What is this music?
Running ads pandering to Palestine. We must stand up to anti-Semitism. We say no more. Why did Kamala Harris support denying Israel the weapons needed to defeat the Hamas terrorists who massacred thousands? And why did Harris show sympathy for college protesters who are
D2, thank you for another 50 big ones.
rabidly anti-Semitic? We must stand up to anti-Semitism. We say no more. In Jewish communities throughout America, questions are being asked. Why did Kamala Harris support denying Israel the weapons needed to defeat the Hamas terrorists who massacred thousands? And why did Harris show sympathy for college protesters who are rabidly anti-Semitic? And why is she running ads pandering to Palestine?
By the way, this is the same Pat that did this. Oh, the anti-Harris Trust ad. No, I don't think it's the same PAC, by the way. I think this. Jason Keebler says that this is an Elon Musk funded PAC. I think that was a separate PAC that was doing the same thing, by the way. Oh, it is. This is Future Coalition. Wait, Elon Musk is also funding Future Coalition. Exclusive. Trump ground game in key states flagged as potentially fake. Data suggests canvassers linked to Elon Musk America PAC falsely claimed to have visited homes with potential voters. That's amazing. Oh my God. He is, dude, that's so funny. They're themselves over, dog. They have no ground game. He relegated his ground game to Elon Musk. I told you guys this when I found out that the Trump campaign, when I found out that the Trump campaign was using Elon and Turning Point as their ground game. Turning Point is a little bit more serious about this stuff and has more experience, but especially Elon Musk, I was like, that's the dumbest thing you can do. Okay. These things need to be directly coordinated. These things need to be coordinated directly by the campaign. You cannot hope that Elon Musk will push you across the finish line. The ground game is very important for turnout. That is hilarious that Elon Musk, being the charlatan that he is, grifting. In Philadelphia, they targeted the areas aligned. Okay, here are the ads that they were running, and here are the ads Muslim voters in Michigan are getting.
She stands with Israel and the Jewish people. Kamala Harris gets it. We can trust her.
You don't always know where Kamala Harris stands. She's changed her mind a lot, but there is one issue she's never budged on. Kamala Harris stands unequivocally with Israel.
Damn, they cooked her on that. I'm not gonna lie.
Always has, and as president, she always will.
Kamala relies on her husband, Doug, for counsel on the toughest issues, like Israel's noble fight against the radical terrorists in Gaza. And when Doug talks, Kamala listens.
No, not Doug, bro. Hey, yo, chill. Yo, cool it. Cool it with my man, Doug, dude. Hey, chill. Chill, dude.
Listens. Kamala and Doug, America's pro-Israel power couple.
I do think that this is yet another indication that political discourse has devolved in this spectacular fashion, because this kind of overt racist pandering by a PAC that is so closely aligned with the campaign, which is already kind of illegal, but is this kind of overt racialized pandering used to be covered in the media as unacceptable. You know what I mean? When super PACs used to do shit like this, people would be like, that's unacceptable. Look at this ridiculous ad. And I feel like nowadays this is completely devolved. We have completely devolved. Political discourse is so fundamentally broken. Like, this is crazy. Doug whistle. Yeah.
When Doug talks, Kamala listens. Kamala and Doug, America's pro-Israel power couple. They were the ultimate power couple, Bill and Hillary. For a quarter century, the Clintons ruled the Democratic Party. Now it's their turn.
Dude, Doug and Kamala are just like Bill and... Nah, that doesn't even work, dog. Come on. Like, no, I that's awesome. That's dope. That's dope, man.
Kamala and Doug. Kamala relies on her husband, Doug, for counsel on the toughest issues, like Israel's noble fight against the radical terrorists in Gaza. And when Doug talks, Kamala listens.
The one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself.
Kamala and Doug, America's pro-Israel power couple.
Kamala Harris is a strong leader for these difficult times, and joining Kamala will be her husband and top advisor, Doug Emhoff, who would be the first Jewish president.
Damn, bro, they are cooking Doug. They're cooking Doug so much. I don't think Doug has anything to do with this, man. Like, that's so funny. Yo, that is that. They're kind of hyping my man up a little bit, okay? They're hyping my man up. Now, remember, this is a PAC that Elon Musk is associated with. Why the are they making a goddamn PAC like this? Why the are they making a goddamn PAC like this where they're just overtly being like, Kamala Harris is mind controlled by her Jewish husband? Like, that's insane, dude. You're insane for making an ad like this. It just shows that you're a little bit of a Nazi yourself, you know?
Presidential spouse ever. Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff making history, standing up for what's right, supporting Israel.
It's especially funny to like present Doug like this because it's Doug. You know what I mean? Like, nah, I think Kamala Harris arrived at this conclusion all on her own. I don't think there was any input from Doug. Oh, that's awesome.
You don't always know where Kamala Harris stands. Fracking, private health care, a secure border. Kamala was against all of that.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Now she's worried about losing, so she's saying the opposite. She's changed her mind a lot, but there is one issue she's never budged on that makes her worth it. Kamala Harris stands unequivocally with Israel and against its enemies. She always has, and as president, she always will.
This November, let's make history. Joining Kamala will...
You know what's really funny? These guys are so dumb for making this ad like this. Okay, let me tell you why. Because the people that are writing these ads, like, they're also probably straight up Nazis and shit. And, or even if they're not themselves, they literally think that, like, the average Muslim thinks about Doug or cares about him. The much better way to run these like anti-Kamala ads would be that she stands with Biden unconditionally, because those guys don't give a shit about Doug, dumbass. They care about Biden doing the genocide right now. And Kamala Harris has time and time again given incredible opportunities for these attack ad writers to just be like, she stands with Israel just like she stands with Biden, who is nuking Gaza. Okay, like, if they wanted to do this, they should have. If they wanted to do a better job with this, if they weren't so invested in like the notion that every single person in like Hamtramck is just like thinking that Kamala Harris is obviously being mind controlled by her Jewish husband, like, they would do that instead. But it's clear that they don't have the sauce. They don't have the sauce at all. They don't even understand what the they're doing.
Will be her husband, Doug Emhoff, the first Jewish presidential spouse ever.
Vice President
Okay, shut up. Hamtramck. You.
Aside, for right side, Harris has made herself clear. She stands with Israel and the Jewish people. She has a
Hamtramck. Anyway, good stuff. How is this ad legal? I mean, dude, you can say whatever the you want if you're a super PAC, pretty much. Elon learned from Galloway. George Galloway has different campaign letters for the white and Muslim households in Rockdale. Harris ad targeting college kids. Wait, what?
I'm Trey. It's good to be here.
What do you do and how much do you make?
I work in finance, making 6 figures.
How tall are you?
6'5".
Do you have a plan to vote in November?
Nah, not my thing.
I'm done. You won't get pussy if you don't vote for Kamala
Hello,
Harris.
ladies. I'm Trey. It's good to be here.
What do you do and how much do you make?
I work in finance, making 6 figures.
How tall are you?
6'5".
Do you have a plan?
Bro, the people working on the campaign have to be the most online people on the planet. I swear to God. Like, let me tell you something, okay? The moment that you see an ad like this and you go, this speaks to me, understand they're cooked. If any ad that they put out speaks to you directly, you're probably okay? You are the last person that they should be targeting.
Plan to vote in November?
Nah, not my thing. Hello, ladies.
Is his lethally TikTok pilled, which will be banned by the order of the Biden-Harris admin in 3 months? Yeah. Kamala Harris staffers watch too many Jubilee reaction videos? Yeah, probably. I don't understand this ad at all. Why are the balloons popping? It's when like they reject you. It's like a style of content online, dating content, serialized like dating show content where ladies line up, they have a red balloon, and they pop it if they don't like something that you said. 1v20 is the best psyop since fentanyl. It's just brain rotted shit. Cool stuff though. All right, let's get back to, is Kamala Harris turning her back on the Arab American vote?
When we met up with her,
yes.
she was preparing a spoken word poem to perform at a rally.
And when someone asks me, where's my smile? I tell them I sent it to the children of Palestine 6,000 miles away. It's in the land where olive trees witness bombings each and every day, where the sun paint hues on resilient Palestinians who always find their way.
Michigan is home to more than 300,000 Arab Americans. Immigrants from present-day Syria and Lebanon came here in the beginning of the 20th century to work in car manufacturing factories. And with each outbreak of war and mass displacement in the Middle East, more and more Arab immigrants called Michigan home.
Dearborn is home to the largest Arab American population in the country. You know, if you drive down, just down the street, you'll see a lot of Arab American owned restaurants and businesses. This is the home of Arab America.
While in Dearborn, we also reconnected with Adam Abu Salah. Adam volunteered for the Biden campaign in 2020, but now Adam says he can't endorse the party.
This administration right now has continued to support Israel with their actions within the last 11 months and really haven't changed anything. So for us, you know, talking to our families back home, talking to people here in our community, we're really hurt by this administration. 40,000 people dead, 20,000 children dead. This is just too much for any of us to say, you know what, let's look past this and continue to support the Democratic Party.
When Joe Biden dropped out of the race and Kamala Harris became the nominee, Adam was initially hopeful. But he says he's been disappointed in the campaign statements since then.
You know, we hear a lot of talks about a ceasefire, but Kamala Harris and everybody, they say, you know, we want a ceasefire, and then what we want to see is a permanent ceasefire.
The week we traveled to Dearborn, the city was hosting ArabCon. At the convention, Arab political leaders and organizers were discussing the community's role in this year's election. Arab and Muslim voters overwhelmingly supported the Democratic Party in 2020. An estimated 69% of them voted for Biden in the last election. That helped Democrats in Michigan, where margins have historically been slim.
Obviously, to state that Donald Trump only won by 10,000 votes in 2016, and we just saw 101,000 people vote uncommitted. So this is definitely a state that Democrats should be paying attention to. You know, I know right now in the polls, Kamala Harris is up, but guess what? Hillary Clinton, a week before elections, was up 10% in Michigan, and she ended up losing to Donald Trump by 10,000 votes.
Now, a recent national poll puts Kamala Harris's support with the Muslim community at 30%, and that's tied with the percentage of Muslim Americans who say they're planning on voting for Jill Stein and the Green Party. And that number includes Adam.
You know, the Arab and Muslim community knows very well what a Trump presidency looks like. Many people in this community were impacted by the Trump presidency. He is a threat to our country. He's a threat to our democracy. So we also need to talk about Kamala Harris being a threat to our democracy and the Democratic Party being a threat to our democracy. As it stands right now, I'm going to vote for Jill Stein. Right now, we have a choice between candidates who have been continuous supporters of Netanyahu and the genocide that's going on. And we also have a candidate who has called this a genocide. I really don't understand why Democrats would think that out of the three candidates, we would go with them.
And some of the people we spoke to at ArabCon echoed Adam's sentiment.
I'm a registered Democrat, but I am voting for Jill Stein.
It's important to show that
I'm pretty sure I've worked with that lady before. I think she used to run a charity called Muslims for Progressive Values. What's your position on Jill Stein? I don't really care for Jill Stein particularly. I don't think these people care about Jill Stein either. I think they just want to put a protest vote out there. Yeah. Like Jill Stein is not exactly great. But not for the reasons that people are like, oh, she's a spoiler. Like, I don't give a shit about that. I wish if she was more of a, like, legit figure, I would have a different interpretation of it. But I feel like the Green Party is not super serious about, like, actually building a ground game or building a solid alternative party. And it's not because they get sabotaged by the Democrats. That much is also obvious that happens, but that's not the reason. But yeah, I get why these people are understandably resentful. I do.
I'm a registered Democrat, but I am voting for Jill Stein.
it's important to show that the two options that we're presented with aren't necessarily our only two options.
I'm definitely not voting for genocide, so I definitely will be voting for an independent candidate who supports my belief.
If we give away that principle, which is what we would be doing by voting for Harris or Trump for that matter, then we've acquiesced to genocide.
The Democratic Party's refusal to hold Israel accountable has even caused longtime supporters to question their loyalty. Ali Dagher is a Lebanese-American lawyer working in Dearborn. He's a lifelong Democrat and has been volunteering in presidential campaigns since the 80s.
One of the best campaigns I've ever worked on was the Obama campaign. I loved it because it was pure passion. We went to the convention. It was amazing to see an African American become president, especially with a guy whose name was Barack Hussein Obama. This galvanized my kids, this galvanized all of us into believing in the spirit of the Democratic Party and its values.
We traveled to Michigan before Israel escalated its attack on Lebanon. Israel has killed at least 2,000 people in Lebanon in the past year. One of those victims being Lebanese-American Kamil Jawad from Dearborn. The majority of people of Arab descent in Dearborn have ties to Lebanon, including Ali, who still has family in the south.
It's going to be a close election. I really don't know how things are going to go. I think the Arab American community is likely not to vote for Harris. I'm fairly certain of that. If the war had stopped a couple of weeks ago or it stopped a month ago, there may have been some time for reconsideration. The killing that's going on in Gaza, the killing that's going on in that entire region is just wrong. There is some amount of betrayal that I felt. I don't know how I'm going to vote. I'm not going to lie to you. In my heart, I don't want Trump to win. I think he's not just a disaster for Arab Americans, but he's also a disaster for all Americans. Deep in my heart, I'm rooting for her.
Ali's family...
Wait, what? No. I don't think... Wait, really? Poll shows Harris leading Trump 49-47. However, with Stein in the race, Trump's support dips to 46%, while Harris maintains 49% backing. What's the reason? In Michigan, Trump beat Clinton by 10,000 votes. The legacy of the election looms large. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jill Stein received an endorsement from David Duke. A known white supremacist endorsed Stein over Trump, citing her criticism of U.S. policy on Israel as the reason. Oh no. No way. Dude, what? No way. Bro, America's insane, dude. We are not a serious nation. Stop. Oh God. Oh my God. That's insane. I've seen a lot of pro-Stein leftists say David Duke is a DNC op to besmirch the reputation of Jill Stein. Yeah. Sure. No, dude, he's just an insanely anti-Semitic racist. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Also, something really funny about this is that Jill Stein, I think, is Jewish. Wow, David Duke, he's woke now. David Duke is like, listen, guys. He's like, listen, everybody. We gotta vote for the Jewish woman who's running for president of the United States of America, because all of the other candidates are mind controlled by the Jews. Oh, that's awesome. He's like, David Duke be like, Jews controlled the media and the American government, which is why I'm voting for the only Jewish candidate running for president. Yeah. Wow, we're getting real nutty with it.
History is deeply tied to Michigan's labor unions, which are known for having a significant influence on the outcome of elections. Ali's father was a member of the United Auto Workers Union, UAW for short, which often is vocal in state and federal politics.
And if it wasn't for him getting a job as a UAW worker, we'd be living in poverty. And that's why I'm 100% supporter of labor. I march with them. I do whatever I can to be a part of the union. You can't live in this area without being in some form impacted by the UAW.
The union endorsed Kamala Harris for president, but also called for a permanent ceasefire in Palestine and Israel.
We're the grandkids and children of the UAW. And by calling for an immediate ceasefire, the UAW did stand up and do the right thing. And we're hoping that UAW continues to influence the administration.
While the majority of UAW members voted for Joe Biden in 2020, it's unclear how its endorsement will influence the upcoming election.
We want a president that's going to tell someone like Netanyahu, you don't own the United States Congress. And we need the American people to regain the power that has been lost. We need our country back. That's the problem here. Is she that person? I don't know.
And that sentiment of I don't know is what we heard a lot at ArabCon.
It's a time in history in American politics where we're choosing from the bottom of the barrel.
It's so funny. It's not funny, actually. It's very sad that like all of these people just want to vote for the Democratic Party. They're like, please just like throw me a bone. And the Democrats are like, nah, you're filth. You're nothing. We'll kill your families. And there's nothing you can say or do about it. Also, thanks again to Dito2 with another 50 gifted subs right at the top of the hour. Once again, allowing 50 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here is the 3-minute ad break now.
Disappointed is an understatement, for Kamala's position on Gaza. And at the same time, I think Donald Trump would be disastrous for our country.
The reality is it is a Democratic administration that is funding and excusing genocide. It is a Democratic administration that is allowing the biggest land grab in the West Bank in 20 years. It's really hard to look at somebody in my community and say, it's going to be worse. The genocide is going to be worse.
Men, women, and children are being slaughtered, and we're paying for it, and we're funding it, and it's our weapons. That's my main issue.
Do I want to stop Donald Trump from becoming president again? Or do I want to vote my conscience and demonstrate also the power of the Arab American and Muslim vote.
That feeling of uncertainty is present for Lexis and the Uncommitted campaign as well.
The campaign, VP Harris, the administration, they have repeatedly said to us that they actually don't want us to mobilize their people, that they're willing to put those votes on the table. They don't want the resistance in the party. They want to be able to navigate and operate in a way where nobody's pushing back against their inhumane and unjust policies.
The Uncommitted campaign refused to endorse any presidential candidate for this election, but it also said it would not recommend voting third party.
If Harris does not move as it relates to policy, I cannot come out and endorse Harris. It's just not something I can do. And as it relates to third party vision, I just can't, in my good conscience, recommend a vote for a third party. And in my personal assessment, voting third party is a vote that's almost serving as a protest vote against people that feel very angry, and rightfully so, against the decisions that the Democratic Party has made. But the question I put back on people is, what does that decision do for saving Palestinian lives right now?
Some in the Arab and Muslim community were angered by the Uncommitted campaign's refusal to endorse any third-party candidate. But as more and more Arab and Muslim voters stop being loyal to the Democratic Party, it could make Kamala Harris's path to the White House extremely difficult. No matter who wins the presidency in the US, Lexis doesn't think US foreign policy in the Middle East will change, which is why she says she's focused on the day after the election.
We far too often react in a moment of crises. What infrastructure are we building right now so we don't have to be reactive to things that are happening, and that we have enough infrastructure built to create influence, to create change? What are we doing as a community on the very next day after the election to grow our movement? And so for me, I want to see that movement continue to grow. I want to see coalitions build across communities of color, across lines of difference, to see the influence that movements, from the people in the streets to the student encampments to what Uncommitted has done, to see the influence that it has had on people across not just our country but the globe, and the way people are courageously speaking up for Palestine. Like, that's truly a silver lining, and that shows me that we're doing exactly what needs to be done.
What is this?
But the American empire
With
is
just 17 days to go, Vice President Harris and former President Trump are focusing on the crucial swing states and nearly crossing paths. Harris bringing in some big names this weekend, while Trump campaigns in Pennsylvania. And ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks is following it all, and she leads us off this morning. Good morning, Mary Alice.
Yeah, good morning, Gio. That's right. Harris is set to appear this weekend with musicians Lizzo and Usher. She's really been picking up the pace of her campaign. Both candidates had multiple stops throughout Michigan yesterday. At one point, they were both in Detroit, tailoring their message to the auto industry.
With just 17 days to go until Election Day, former President Trump and Vice President Harris crisscrossing the state of Michigan. Harris sharpening her attacks.
He makes big promises, and he always fails to deliver.
Calling Trump out for refusing to debate her again.
If you are exhausted on the campaign trail, it raises real questions about whether you are fit for the toughest job in the world.
Trump pushing back.
I've gone 48 days now without arrest, and I've got that loser who doesn't have the energy of a rabbit.
Polls show Michigan a total toss-up. In 2016, Trump won the state by fewer than 10,000 votes, but lost in 2020 by over 150,000 votes. Both candidates focusing on the future of the auto industry. Harris meeting with auto worker union members in Lansing, Michigan.
We will ensure that the next generation of breakthrough.
Do you think the Arab Dems, non-Arab Dems, will hold it against the Arab population if Trump wins? This is what you voted for? Good luck being rounded up and deported type attitude? Yes, they're already saying that. It's wild, like the way that they say it, like so openly. They'll just straight up be like, they straight up will just be like, yeah, f you, have fun being deported, bitch. Like, I'm fantasizing about you being deported now. It's like, how are you any different? You should be fighting by my side if you actually cared about it. Like, what the what? No call for civil rights style riots, massive disobedience, and white strikes, nor literally the only person who at least calls it a genocide. The only person who at least calls it a genocide? What else is possible to achieve? Sing? This whole time you've avoided talking about her like she's Voldemort, man. I don't understand why. What? What? What are you talking about? Are you talking about Jill Stein? I think like it favors Jill Steiners in the chat, if you do exist in this community. Hello. If you're a Jill Stein head, you probably should recognize that it's better for you that I don't talk about Jill Stein. You know? To the Stein heads in the chat. I am not particularly fond of Jill Stein. I think she is opportunistic. I think she only comes around every 4 years. That's it. I don't care. I don't care enough to talk about Jill Stein, a person who only seemingly just like comes out of a vat every 4 years to be like, remember me? You should vote for me as the alternative. Like, if she was a more serious person, she's pro-Assad, pro-Russia. Yeah, I don't care about any of that shit, okay? I'm just telling you, like, if she cared about this, if she cared about, like, actually building a momentum, she would be working on the off season, okay? She doesn't. She doesn't do any of that shit. She has no motion. She has no juice, okay? She is deeply unserious. And for that reason, it's hard for me to look at this as anything but like an opportunist who, once again, comes around exclusively to be like, see, remember me? And that's why it's a spectacular failure as well. Like, if you wanted to actually reach a certain level of prominence, you would be working round the clock. You'd be working around the clock, like in local elections, okay? And building a base of support, showing or proving that you have a message that resonates with voters by actively targeting whatever area where you could technically win. You could win like real campaigns. They do greens run candidates. I know, dude. But the issue is they have never actually started small and built up on it, built a solid foundation to showcase that they are like a real party within this process with serious anti-green DNC talking point. Yes, dude, I am obviously in the pocket of the Democratic Party. As you guys know, I am a Democratic Party op and also a Zionist, okay? And that this can't simply be my genuine opinion on Jill Stein. Without having any sort of backing, without showing that like this message resonates to voters, without having any sort of serious background, you're at a time when you're supposed to be reaching insane levels, considering that there's a concept such as double haters. But you prefer Kamala, though? I never said that. My preference on the matter is completely irrelevant regardless. Okay, I prefer... me saying I prefer Jill Stein over Kamala Harris is like me saying I prefer myself as president over Kamala Harris, dog. What the are you talking about? Yeah, I prefer myself. I prefer Uncle Jank to be the president of the United States of America. I don't doubt your opinion is genuine, but that doesn't mean it isn't a clueless take when the DSC spends more money crushing third parties in unison with the RNC than anything else. This is the same loser shit that Bernie Dead Enders ran into. Okay? Sorry, at the end of the day, you know what the situation looks like, so you have to set up against it. That's it. As a 2016 Jill Stein voter, Bernie Dead Ender, you are the most correct. Like, there were a lot of issues with Bernie Sanders' campaign, specifically, like, yes, the entire situation was designed against him, okay? But it's obvious that his method failed the first time, and his method failed the second time as well, in terms of, like, grassroots mobilization and drawing out turnout. I don't care. If you want to vote for Jill Stein, go ahead. I'm just not going to hype Jill Stein up. That's what I'm saying. I don't think people understand that, which is really interesting because they literally treat this in the same intensity, which is kind of funny, that the Democratic Party blue MAGA people get mad at me over for saying that exact same thing about Kamala Harris. Okay? As long as you're not voting for Donald Trump, I don't give a shit. Don't vote for Donald Trump. Okay? Do not vote for Donald Trump. My statements and my sentiment on the matter is utterly irrelevant. You cannot outflank an entire national campaign with billions of dollars in their war chest by being a Twitch streamer that says, I don't really like this, or I really like this. You can't move the needle in any capacity. As a matter of fact, if I was a grifter, you think the Democratic Party wouldn't love to have me on their side? Are you kidding me? I'm the largest leftist content creator in North America. They would die over this. They would be fantastic. They would be so excited. If I was a grifter, I'd be like, oh, I'm Mamala. I'm on the Mamala train. I'm coconut pilled all the way until November. They would. My point is, I do not want Donald Trump to win. But the reality of the matter is, the Democrats if they're not putting forward a convincing case, might actually end up losing to Donald Trump. And it will be entirely their fault. It will not be the Arab community's fault. It will not be Jill Stein's fault. It will be entirely on them. They will have, once again, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
From advanced batteries to electric vehicles are not just invented, but built right here in America by American union workers.
Trump talking about his plan to impose steep tariffs on imported cars.
If I get elected, I'm not going to let them sell cars into our country in order to destroy the rest of Michigan.
The war in Gaza front and center for voters in Michigan, too. The state has one of the largest Arab American populations in the country. Trump commenting on Israel killing Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, praising Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for the war, quote, moving along pretty good.
He's doing a good job. Biden is trying to hold him back.
Harris telling her crowd outside Detroit Sinwar's death should be a turning point.
Everyone must seize this opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza, bring the hostages home.
Now, early in-person voting starts in some places in Michigan this weekend. In more than 20 states, people can already go now in person to vote. And a big win for North Carolina. That state this week breaking its early turnout record for its first day of early in-person voting. The head of the State Board of Elections there saying that it was a sign that people trust the election, that voters are energized, and that the hurricane there will not stop them.
Plenty of energy already in this campaign. Thank you, Mary Alice Parks. We appreciate it.